Oh, okay, here I am. Well, here I am. Howdy, folks. I wish, it'd be nice to be consistent with my camera position, right? I just put it down, and it's working. It's on a stick. Let's just say that. It's on a stick platform thingy I made to get it up to eye level and all that fun stuff. So there's always going to be tweaking at the beginning. If I'm always looking to the right, there's a second screen over here for me. My right. And that's where the video is, right? Put it in the middle. I'm looking at you folks, probably looking up. Not sure what's better. Is it better to look up or to the right? I'm thinking too much today. I hope you folks are well. I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics. And I'm going to move the stick. No. Yes. Yes. Okay, that'll do. Oh, I hope you folks are doing well. Tuesday? Tuesday, I think. Tuesday. Tuesday. Cool. Alright, so I got about an hour and a half till I gotta get out of here. So it's just kind of a broad topic. Had a very long meeting with Wicked Publishing yesterday. My first meeting as social media manager. Went very well. I'm glad they're very happy with the work I'm doing for them. But some of the things that came up kind of inspired what I wanted to chat about today. Ooh, this metal track's incredible, but slightly intrusive. Let's chat about that for a minute. The three of us are manga fans, right? In particular, Berserk came up, but I gave other examples in the same thing. And I've been talking on this thing for probably working on a month and a half now about my future pivots creatively with IronVerse Comics. What I think would best encapsulate the work I need to do in the time I may or may not have. But from that, right, the title of the stream was Strengths and Weaknesses and the Value of Knowing Thyself, right? So for me, and for everybody, if they got an inch of sense to them, they will find out that the journey here, the thing that we breathe for, right, continuously unfolds, and you learn more and more, right? You learn something every day, hopefully, right? You should, no matter what, by the nature of time, but some folks would define learning different. Sometimes you experience something new every day, but you didn't learn jack shit from it, right? But in that process, my hope is you find and understand yourself better, right? The value of knowing yourself. And part of this creative journey has been that, right? Even the impetus, the starting flare, the spark of what became IronVerse Comics was exactly that desire. It was myself looking to explore and maybe not understand so much as come to terms with certain aspects of existence, but my personal existence, right? It's gonna be different for everybody. For me, the more I've looked and tried to understand inwards, the more peace I've found. But I don't think there's a permanent peace in any of that. But I think the pursuit is very valuable. And so in doing so, you get to learn, you want to learn your strengths and weaknesses so you can learn to pivot, right? Creatively, this comes in a lot of different forms, a lot of different flavors. Um, but before I get into that, let me double check something real quick. Basically, I just want to, on that track I didn't want to hear right away. I just want to check if you folks could hear me over that metal. Because I could hear me, but I don't know if you folks could. So, uno momento, por favor, amigos y amigas. Oh, that's a great thumbnail. Here. Oh, it's gonna be, music's gonna come back. That's all right. Oh, is it still paused here? Oh, that's excellent how that works. All right. Look at that thumbnail. Isn't that great? uh, okay. Anyway, um, let's let me go back a little bit. It's actually balanced all right. Cool. But we're gonna go to a different style. Perfect. Perfecto. Um, so on this thing, this trip, this endeavor, this journey, whatever the hell you want to call creativity and your own personal steps in it, right? Um, Figuring out where you need to improve, whether you can or can't improve in those aspects, because everybody likes to think they could improve themselves in every way that they can imagine they have flaws. Fact and reality of the matter is, not only would you not have the time to do so, um, but there's a very distinct possibility that a lot of what makes you you is within those imperfections, and that's what makes you a perfect expression of reality, right? Um, and so, some cases, like, not only are there barriers in front of it. Oh God, this track's like I'm gonna get strangled. And this is more or less looking for. Um, it's important to understand these things. Again, to find the peace, and I think if you don't have some kind of peace with this journey, particularly in comics, I mean, this applies to art in general, because art as an expression, as a means of survival, because that's when you're dealing with any kind of financial situation. Um, in our current systems, like, survival is the first, consideration, and then everything else comes second. And so I had mentioned this last night in the meeting, but also, you have to have your art somehow have a perceived value in that factor if you desire any kind of lasting success. A great example of someone who did it quietly, as far as I'm aware, he wasn't a very bombastic personality. He just created something incredible and did a incredible service to mental health, from what I observed over the weeks of after his passing, was Kentaro Miura, Berserk's creator. Um, the entire journey of Berserk seems to be a if not a self-exploration, a exploration of aspects of reality and psychoses and trauma that, at the very least, Miura could resonate with and could understand. I can't speak to personal life, right? I could say if you read the work, it feels like it's deeper than simple observation and understanding. But that's that's just hearsay, right? That's just speculation is the word I want. That's just speculation. But in that journey over his 30, almost 40 years working on that project, basically dedicating most of his life to it, you can see the growth and change and the understanding of what it needed to be throughout Guts' journey. It's incredible. You get the Black Swordsman, which is kind of just feeling out what he wants to do as a mangaka, emulating the artists and creators he really appreciates and adored, while, being his own very bombastic and often very dark self, or dark art form that he appreciated, right? Again, speculation. And as it grows and culminates into the Golden Age arc, you see he wants to do more with that. He didn't just want to make another Fist of the North Star. He loved it, obviously. Again, Black Swordsman arc has quite a bit of influence from that. From the hyper-violence, right, which Fist of the North Star kind of popularized, to even Guts' like design and how he carries himself and a lot of that. There's a lot of Kenshiro in Guts. Not as much, not too much, but there's a lot. At the beginning, in particular. But once you hit the Golden Age arc, he's like, okay, I got if this is my tool, this is my method, this is my, again, all speculation, but this is what I felt through reading it. There are things I want to talk about and things I want to express that I haven't seen expressed or talked about this way, and he just went for it. And the Golden Age arc was a perfect culmination of these things. Particularly the young Guts part of it is a massive shift from a lot of what you expect from manga if you just read it in general, right? And it culminates in a beautiful question and contrast of two different pathways through life, right? With Griffith willing to step on the corpses of as many as possible to get to that castle, right? Get to his dream. With Guts taking the more humble approach of just figure it out life as he goes and trying to survive it, no matter how bad it gets. What earns him what makes him the struggler. Griffith, as far as we've read, he probably had some trouble as a kid, especially when you see him, you see the God Hand kind of twisting him so he'll sacrifice everybody during the eclipse. You can see there's some sadness, and there's an unbelievable drive and a extreme, near sociopathic attachment to the dream that he had, his escape from that grounding, that worldly reality that he was placed in, whereas Guts looks upon this reality, experiences it, and just wants to be Guts. And we see that contrast basically through the entire series, and eventually you can see and experience that Miura was basically, after the Conviction arc, he had wallowed enough with Guts. There's still quite a bit of darkness, right? It's just in Berserk's DNA. It's never going to go. It's part of what makes Guts, right? Again, you can speculate it past that, because I very much believe true art always carries quite a bit, if not a soul shard of the creator. You can see, and it goes from the line art, it goes throughout the entire piece as an artistic expression, every aspect, even paneling and things. That Miura, by the end of the Conviction art, had explored that darkness that he implied in the Black Swordsman arc, that he went full hog into at the Golden Age arc, and then just wanted to go a little bit deeper and a little less emotionally invested in the Conviction arc. And then Guts starts getting a family and understanding what it means to be what I call a positive patriarch, the strength that defends what I call a home. And the line art changes. Guts interactions with everyone around him change, his mood with the curse of being Guts, like everything starts to shift, and it just continues till Miora's passing. And will probably continue through the new team finishing the story. And the point of strengths and weaknesses here, right, of me discussing Berserk again. Of course, I'm a huge fan. I'm not going to be able to shut up about that story and what it did for mental health. But Miura obviously knew what some weaknesses within... Again, it would be speculation to say within himself in that case, but within the human experience at the very least. The darknesses, the temptations, the sometimes very horrific realities of being, water, meat, and bone, right? And his path to understanding it, the value, his desire and value to express and explore it over decades through the medium of manga. That journey resonated with so many people to the point that I could clearly and undeniably see from his passing the good that this exceedingly dark fantasy tale did for mental health. And that's just one aspect of diving into the weaknesses. Now, if you want to talk about the strengths as well, when Guts kind of finds more of a peace with his journey and he lets Griffith go just a little bit, for the sake of his newfound family, that's when I think he started exploring the strength beyond just strength of will, which is what Guts was very much good at. Guts had an undeniable desire to live. There's a very specific scene, no matter how you twist and torture us, we want to live, right? I think that is during the Black Swordsman arc, actually. And finding those places to pivot from, I think, gives your work not only a exceedingly strong grounding personally to pursue it, because again, this artistic struggle is exactly that, but it also can give a point of resonance and a pillar, almost a beacon of light for readers and other human beings to communicate with. And that's just one aspect of the value of understanding those two things within yourself, or, again, speculation, because I don't know this individual and I'm not this individual, right? There are other ways about that, right? Like, the other one that I've been diving into consistently, it has been One Piece. And Oda's strengths and weaknesses are very different than Miura's. And how he explores those pursuits are very different. At the end of the day, I think both Luffy and Guts have a similar pursuit in general, as in like general freedom and liberation. To be the most them they can be without the world bearing down on them, right? Again, both creators approach that direction very differently, but that's a commonality. That's a pursuit of strength and a desire, and that's a strength. If you have a point that can give you incredible drive, you have an expression that can give you incredible drive, and you can weave it within your work, then I think you have a much better chance of resonating and succeeding, whether that's on large scale or smaller scale, whether that's a couple hundred people who love your work or millions, right? I think it gives you that opportunity, whereas if you're just creating, there's a lot of ways to create where you ignore the self, which can be really good, It's just a very different approach. But there's a lot of ways where you can ignore the self-exploration aspect of art, um, which can be, if not done right, and I can't think of an example right now. Um, I guess like a well done textbook uh, is an example of a work that probably ignores the self quite a bit and focuses purely on something else like knowledge, right? The conveyance of knowledge. Um, but most people wouldn't consider that art, but it very much is to me. But people aren't usually reading textbooks for pleasure, for entertainment, for human connection, right? Um, so I think you can make wonderful art that doesn't do that, but it's much harder, and a lot of people, especially within comics, and I see it again and again. A pitfall that has kind of come up more recently than it ever had, like in the last, I don't know, 30 years. Um, is people creating comics because they see it as a pathway to success, a stepping stone to success, otherwise, to personal extent. It's more of a selfish endeavor, almost. Um, and not to say something like Berserk isn't a selfish endeavor, which I would say it very much is. Um, but how it's handled has less empathy, I guess would be it. And some creators can definitely create amazingly beautiful work in terms of artistry, but in terms of the actual soul of the work itself, speaking and resonating and doing a positive for the collective human consciousness and soul, that part's ignored. And a lot of people who pursue that path aren't inward thinkers. Um, they think, well, I guess they may think very self-centered, but that doesn't mean they have self-reflectionary capability. And I see that in a lot of new comic book work because people see it as a stepping stone towards other success. Oh, I'll make a comic and then I'll get a movie and I'll be super successful. Ignoring the fact that 99% of comic movies, the creator got shafted in one form or another. Ignoring the fact that the comic book industry itself shafts creators again and again and again. Ignoring the fact that even if you're looking at manga, that creators tend to have to work themselves to the bone to survive the industry. Ignoring the fact that this kind of work naturally involves self-sacrifice, and if you're going to sacrifice yourself, you better have knowledge of not only what it is of yourself that you can give, uh, but where you can do it better and more, so you're not wasting your sacrifice. You're not wasting your time, which is the number one thing that, I don't think people consider in all of this. Uh, our limited energy in this cycle is a spooky thing. And I think a lot of folks, I mean, entertainment is one of the forms that we escape that, right? And so it's smart not to think directly on those terms if you're trying to create to uplift. But at the same time, if you ignore and disrespect that aspect, I think you are setting yourself up to fail in one form or another. Um, and I think understanding your strengths and weaknesses is key in avoiding that specific, very common pitfall. And I think the work, comic work, manga work, comic strip work, sequential artistry, whether that's writing, art, doing all of it. It's a wonderful place for you to do personal work, for you to communicate with yourself and explore what that means for yourself. At the same time, I think it's that journey can have extreme value to others, and I've seen it again and again that be true. So at the end of the day, there's many who will pass up the mountain, and I wouldn't want to limit anybody because they don't want to tackle these things that way. Uh, but at the same time, I think it is inevitable that you have to, in some shape or form, during your journey, to find the strength and to find the drive and to find the passion to make the impossible occur, to make miracles happen. Uh, Without true resonance and energetic potential behind your work, the only way you can shove it down people's throats is capital. And if you're working in comics, probably don't have capital, or at least enough to make that work. And probably like 99%. There are examples you can point right now today that are very successful that do have capital, though. Like, that's the bit. Like, they started somewhere else and like, oh, I'll do comics. It's a great stepping stone. That's still my problem, is usually the ones who start with capital and want to throw something out there so that they can work towards something else, because comics is a simple, cheap medium. I hope more people see it as I do, as a cheapening of the whole thing, because it's being viewed so, and then it's being portrayed and sold to others as that. And I think a lot of heart is lost in that reality. But nonetheless, like, I just think it's super important that some aspect of yourself on a important, resonant, almost divine journey, your purpose makes its way into your work. I don't think, and I see that much. A lot of self-worth ends up in comics, right? A lot of people, that's why people are very touchy about comics, whether they're making them or just reading them, because that happens. And I think we're losing some of that desire and truth within the mainstream, and that's changing the perception of the whole, and people are drifting to manga, because that very important aspect, no matter how cheap and how much sold out the manga industry can be, that very important core remains in basically every creator's work, because the workload that is demanded of these creators can only be supported by that kind of drive, that kind of resonance with what you're doing. And I think the pursuit and discovery and understanding and continual growth of the understanding of your strengths and weaknesses will continue to push you forward through those demands of the environment, the system, the finances, the creation itself, and the works I resonate most with. That's what it is. Usually I can point to a work's thesis, because that usually exists within the work, whether it was subconsciously from the creator or very actively conscious. And I think it's better if it's actively conscious but not overly done, which I may have done in the first 3 issues of Jack Irons, particularly 1 and 2. It was a little too conscious of what I was trying to do, and not so much focusing on flow and of ease of communication and of the bridging the border between reader and creator. Um, but that's neither here nor there. And that's one of my weaknesses, right? It's well, that's kind of the main thing I wanted to chat about, folks. I think it's super important, and I hope and do see most creators again. Usually, after I read a work, I can see its thesis, like what's it's exploring, what was the point, what was the drive of the creator in it. Berserk, again, it was an exploration of trauma and of what it really means to understand the darkness within reality and push back. Maybe not for everyone, not like this big heroic sense of I'm going to slay the demon, and more of I'm going to work on slaying my own demons. Very neat stuff. One Piece is this pursuit of found family, this value of accepting the human condition and the differences and all that, and simply setting sail on life for yourselves, coupled with the pursuit of self-liberation. Going to be king of the pirates. It's right there. I'm not going to conquer anything. The man who's the most free is the king of the pirates. That's the bit. And you never feel throughout it that Luffy feels oppressed. He just feels challenged. It's a great way to communicate these ideas that we all probably feel. I want to say all, but there are privileged positions of power and existence that have different, more specific chains than the average human. And they usually lose themselves through those chains. But we say that's one of the explorations in One Piece as well. So it's man, it's tough. It's tough, but I really would love to see this medium reach a potential that is 100% there for this beautiful. It's the potential stories have always had, right? It's just the specific communications possible within the mediums of sequential art is something else, right? Language, one-on-one person communication has a different value than that kind of communication, where it's very passive. It's the reader actively engaging with the work, and the creator have long past let it go. Whereas interpersonal communication is active on both cases, and that causes a lot of our strife. Because we only have the moment, and then we have to pivot and understand and act within that moment, and so that pressure and stress, whether or not it's a fun conversation or what have you, exists subconsciously no matter what. So it's a different form of communication that some people can handle a lot better than others. Just like the expression of comics is a medium, the expression of YouTube videos is a medium, the expressions, all of these mediums and forms, and all of it is simply communication. And the pursuit, if you're an artist, the pursuit of making your communication with the world valuable enough that you can survive off of it is that's the task. And if you don't understand your strengths, you don't understand your weaknesses, I don't know how far you're going to get with it. Just straight up. And it's a continuous journey is the main point. Like, you're not going to reach a point where you understand all your strengths and all your weaknesses. It's the closest you're going to get is the last breath, right? But it's a heck of a journey, and I think the medium of Western comics tries very hard to explore these things. Some do it very well. I recommend Murder Falcon as a beautiful expression of the love of heavy metal, but also the acceptance of the inevitable. which is a wonderful combination. And how Denny Warren Johnson combined the two is just like it, just pro. There's I don't think anybody else could have communicated it that way, and that's what I want to say about anybody's work. Is I couldn't have heard that message like that from anybody else, and it meant something to me. I think that should be, that's my goal as a creator, and I think it is a very powerful goal and a very powerful tool in a creator's kit to have. So yeah, I'm gonna drink some more coffee. It's just kind of a rant, a little bit short of a rant. I don't know if I'll end the stream. I don't have much else to say. I don't have much else to show. I don't have much else to dive into. But that was something I wanted to get recorded and put down, because I haven't heard anybody speaking about it as I was. And again, as a creator, I hope somebody finds my work, can see it and say, you know, I couldn't have heard that from anybody else. I couldn't have understood it from anybody else. Thank you for expressing it, even if it's just them thinking it. And I've done that for many creators. Again, Miura, I couldn't have heard that message like that from anybody else, and it means the world to me, and it meant the world to many others. Oda, I couldn't have heard this message from anybody else in the way it was spoken, or created into existence. There's so much great storytelling out there that can provide those services alongside providing an escape, providing an environment in which somebody can explore these ideas comfortably and hell have a great time doing it, right? I think that's one of our jobs, and I think we can't quite do that correctly if we don't understand what we can do, what we can't do, what we can improve on, and what we excel at, right? Yeah. I guess then I have to proof in the pudding that I'm walking that path, right? So, I believe one of my strengths is interpersonal, direct, honest, earnest communication with fan base, with creators, with what I'm trying to do with my work, you know, understanding my work and why I do it, how I do it. I think that's one of my strengths. That's what gives me passion and drive. I believe those two things, passion and drive, are how I've gotten where I am. Whether or not that's this massive success from your standpoint, I don't really care. What I care about is if it has been doing what it needs to for my own personal journey and has resonated and possibly assisted others in their own. And I can very much say I believe that it has already. So my mission's been successful if I pass tomorrow, right? And I want every day to feel like that. And this work allows that to be a possibility, alongside my other work as well, right? I want to bring benefit. I want to help heal. While I'm here. So it's some of the weaknesses, right? Though my communication is honest and forthcoming, it can be often engaging, and I can see that I can usually gather attention from what I'm speaking about, usually, particularly when it's something I'm extremely passionate about. My general communication, my social ability in less specific aspects is terrible. I often, in those situations, phrase and say things in a way that is easily misunderstood. A lot of the time I receive information from other folks through their communications, and it's very easily misunderstood for me because I'm looking at it at face value, without even thinking or occurring to look at it deeper. I am not that disciplined as well. As you see with these streams, right? I can't regiment things very well because I very much am in pursuit of freedom, and regimentation is an aspect that I have to come to terms with. I heard this, God, a day or two ago, and it really resonated with me. It was to do with music, but it's an art thing. It would apply to any artistic form. That technique is the path to freedom. And I've known this before. You need to know the rules to break the rules, right? It's the same idea, but I never really heard it as technique leads to freedom, uh, which means regimentation, if used properly, builds strength, right? And then it builds strength, builds discipline, and discipline is a form of strength. And with those tools, you can do some amazing things that are not within that regimentation. They're not limited by it. They are that technique gives you the skill to liberate yourself. But I'm very terrible at disciplining it. So that's one of the weaknesses, right? Like, I understand it, and I understand why it's a weakness. That's a big one, is even if you know the thing, then you need to understand why it's that way. And so that's one of the things for me, right? That's a big one. I think another strength is, and it kind of feeds in the first one, but specifically for my writing, is my voice. I think it communicates things specifically. It communicates things in a engaging way, and in a way that others cannot. It's not always what people desire, but I think it is absolutely a strength in the work I'm trying to do. Another weakness is I think too much. I overthink so much to the point of extreme anxiety in most situations. And so hesitation comes in, and risk-taking minimizes. And with risk-taking minimized, opportunity minimizes. And so that's a weakness, right? It's tough, folks. I would never judge somebody for not resonating with what I'm talking about this whole stream, but at the same time, I think it's important. And if I can get the message through to, again, one person, I think it's a service that I am so proud to do. But yeah, did we hit an hour? I hit 45 minutes. I could do a shorter stream. Just I don't think more people will check it out that way, but I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. All I know is I don't. Yeah, kinda. But there are patterns, there are cycles, there are similarities that exist, right? So if you throw that away, you just got chaos and scramble. You have to have some kind of logical footing. But I get the exploration point of all I know is I know nothing. It's to humble you and to understand the massive amount of I can say but of creation, of existence that's out there, and that the time you have and the path that you specifically walk cannot allow you to know all of it, and therefore it doesn't devalue what you do, quote unquote, know, but it should put it all in a perspective, right? It should humble you to the journey you're taking part in, but not scare you of it, right? That's the big one. So yeah, I guess that covers it, folks. I don't know if anybody listened to this, anybody enjoyed it, but I guess that's my rambling musing for today. I'm probably gonna go have breakfast. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that because there's just not. I think I hit everything. I'll just be going in circles. Anywho, appreciate you folks very, very much. I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics, and Vaya con Dios and adios, amigos.